You are standing at the stove. You did everything the recipe said. You bought the ingredients, $30 of them. You followed the steps, and what is in the pan is, plainly, gray. The meat is tough. The vegetables are limp and watery. It tastes of nothing, and you cannot say why. So you shake more salt on it, and you eat it, and you tell yourself you are simply not a good cook. Some people can. You cannot. And so, 3 nights a week, you reach for the phone instead, and you spend $30 more on food a stranger cooked, because a stranger cooks better. Now let me show you my kitchen. In my kitchen, Yuki cooks with almost nothing. Cheap vegetables, the tough cut of meat, rice, and it is good. Every time, plainly, every single time. Not because she has talent, not because of a recipe, but because she knows perhaps 10 small things that nobody ever told you. 10 things that are not in the recipe, because the recipe assumes you already know them. And here is the truth that took me 40 years to understand. The gap between your cooking and hers is not skill. It is 10 pieces of information, and they can be handed to you in the next 25 minutes for nothing. My name is Kenji Takara. I am 81 years old, and I live in Okinawa, in the warm south of Japan. Beside me, as always, is my wife, Yuki. She is 78. She has cooked for this family for more than 50 years, and she has never once used a written recipe. Not once. She learned as a girl standing beside her mother, Nobuko, in a kitchen with 1 knife and 1 pot, and Nobuko learned beside her mother before that. Plainly, what was passed down was never a list of dishes. It was a list of principles, 10 of them perhaps. And those principles are what let a woman with no money and no recipe make food that people remember for a lifetime. In the next 25 minutes, I will give you those 10 things, not tricks, not clever gadgets, the real ones, the ones with honest science behind them, and I will explain the science of each so that you own it forever instead of memorizing it. I will tell you which ones matter most, and I will tell you honestly where each one can go wrong, and I will show you the real money, what these 10 small things save a family in a year. Because let me say it plainly, and with more sorrow than anger, you were never taught to cook. That is not your fault. It was taken from you, slowly, and something was sold in its place. 2 generations ago, a person learned these 10 things standing at their mother's elbow before they could read. Now they are learned from nobody, and the gap is filled by the box, the bag, the jar, the delivery. A household that believes it cannot cook spends plainly $300, $400 a month on food that someone else made, and eats worse for it, and the money is gone forever. In Japan, we have a word for the shame of that waste, mottainai, the feeling that everything has value, and to waste good food and good money for want of 10 small facts nobody told you. Plainly, that is a waste that should trouble the heart. Today, we set it right. Before we go on, one small thing, and then I will not mention it again. Yuki and I have gathered these principles, all of them, and the reasons behind them, into a book at Kenji Takara.com for anyone who wishes to keep them in one place. That is all I will say of it. It waits there if you want it. Now, let us begin. So let me give you the first one, the one everything else stands on, because if you learn only this, you will already cook better tonight. Here it is. Your pan is not hot enough. Almost nobody's is. You put the food in too soon, while the pan is warm instead of hot, and the moment the food touches it, the temperature collapses, and the food sits there and releases its water and boils in its own juice. That is where gray comes from. Gray is boiled. What you wanted was brown, and brown is not a color. Plainly, it is a flavor. Hundreds of new flavor compounds created by heat that simply do not exist below a certain temperature. Yuki heats her pan until a drop of water thrown in dances across the surface instead of sitting and hissing. That dance is the sign. And she never crowds the pan because crowding does the same thing. It cools the metal and floods it with steam. Hot pan, dry food, space between the pieces. That is the first one. Stay with me. There are 9 more, and each one is smaller than you think and larger than you know. Now let me explain the science of that first one properly, plainly, before I give you the rest, because it is the foundation, and the reason matters more than the rule. When you heat food past a certain point, around 300 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface, something remarkable happens. The proteins and the sugars in the food meet each other and begin to rearrange themselves, and in that rearranging, they create hundreds of entirely new compounds. That is where the smell of roasting comes from, the crust on bread, the brown on a seared piece of meat. Those flavors were not in the food when it went into the pan. The heat invented them. This is called the Maillard reaction, named for the French scientist who described it. Now, here is the cruelty of it. That reaction cannot happen while there is water on the surface, because water boils at 212 degrees and will not go higher. It simply turns to steam and carries the heat away. So as long as your food is wet, or your pan is cool enough that the food's own juices pool around it, the surface is stuck at boiling temperature. It cannot reach 300. It cannot brown. It can only turn gray. Plainly, gray food is not badly cooked food. It is food that was never allowed to get hot enough to become delicious. So, number 2, dry your food before it touches the pan. This follows directly, and it is the cheapest improvement in all of cooking. Take a piece of meat, or fish, or tofu out of its package and pat it completely dry with a towel or paper. Every drop of water on that surface must be boiled off before browning can begin, and while it boils off, your food is steaming. Yuki pats every piece of fish dry, always, without thinking, the way you tie your shoes. It costs 1 second. It changes everything. Number 3, salt earlier than you think, and salt in layers. Most people salt at the table when it is too late. The salt sits on the outside and tastes sharp and simple. Salt applied before and during cooking has time to travel into the food, and it does something more than taste salty. It makes everything else taste more like itself. And on meat, salt does real work. Sprinkled on and left even 15 minutes, it draws water out, dissolves in it, and that salty water is then drawn back into the meat, seasoning it from within and helping it hold moisture. Salt, a little at each stage, on the meat, in the vegetables, in the sauce, rather than a great deal at the end. Plainly, food that tastes flat is usually not underflavored. It is undersalted, at the wrong time. And the honest scope here, you can go too far, and salt cannot be removed. So go in small amounts and taste as you go, which is the next one. Number 4, taste constantly. Taste. This is the single greatest difference between a person who cooks well and a person who does not, and it requires no skill at all. Yuki tastes at every stage, the broth, the sauce, the vegetable, the rice. Not once at the end. throughout, because cooking is not the execution of a plan, it is a series of small corrections. A recipe cannot know how salty your soy sauce is, how sweet your carrot is, how strong your vinegar is. Only your tongue knows. A person who tastes 10 times will make good food from a bad recipe. A person who tastes once will make bad food from a good one. Plainly, the spoon in the hand is the whole craft. Number 5. Cut against the grain and cut evenly. Look at a piece of meat and you will see lines running through it. Those are the muscle fibers, the grain. If you slice along them, you leave long, tough fibers, and your teeth must do the work. Slice across them, and you cut those fibers into short pieces before they ever reach your mouth. That is free tenderness, for no money and no time, just the direction of the knife. And evenness matters as much. Pieces of different sizes cook at different speeds, so in a pan of uneven vegetables, some are raw and some are mush, and none are right. Yuki's cuts are all the same size. Not because it is beautiful, because it is physics. Number 6. Let meat rest after it cooks. When meat is hot, its juices are agitated and the fibers are squeezed tight. Cut into it immediately, and that juice pours out onto the board. You can see it, a puddle of the very thing you wanted to eat. Let it sit 5 or 10 minutes off the heat, and the fibers relax, and the juice redistributes back through the meat, and when you cut it, the board stays nearly dry, and the juice stays where it belongs. 5 minutes of patience, plainly, is worth more than any ingredient you could add. Now, one small thing Yuki and I have done for many years. We keep a notebook in the kitchen, not of recipes but of corrections. Too salty, not hot enough, needed acid, 3 lines after a meal that disappointed us. And that notebook, after a year, is worth more than any cookbook, because it is about your hands, your stove, your tongue. The template is in the resource at kenjitakara.com if you would like it, but truly, a scrap of paper in a drawer does the very same job. The noticing is the thing, not the paper. Number 7. When something tastes flat and salt does not fix it, it needs acid. This is the secret that separates cooks from very good cooks. Plainly, a squeeze of lemon, a splash of vinegar, a spoon of rice vinegar at the end of a soup or a stir-fry. A stir-fry. Acid does not make food sour if used in small amounts. It makes food bright. It cuts through fat. It lifts the other flavors up. It wakes the whole dish. Yuki keeps rice vinegar within arm's reach of the stove for exactly this, and she adds it at the very end, off the heat, because acid cooked long loses its lift. When you taste something and it is somehow heavy, dull, sleeping, that is not more salt, that is acid. Number 8. Do not throw away the brown bits, and do not throw away the fat. After you sear something, look at the bottom of your pan. Those stuck brown bits are not burnt. They are the Maillard reaction made solid, the most concentrated flavor in the entire kitchen. Pour in a splash of liquid, broth, water, a little sake or wine, and scrape while it bubbles, and all of that dissolves into a sauce in 15 seconds. That is called deglazing, and it turns a dirty pan into dinner. And the fat rendered from meat, or the oil the vegetables cooked in, that is flavor too. In my mother's generation, the fat went into a tin by the stove and cooked the next meal. Plainly, the flavor you are searching for in a bottle is usually stuck to the bottom of the pan you are about to wash. Number 9. Layer your aromatics by time, and know that garlic burns. Almost every good dish begins with something aromatic and fat. onion, ginger, garlic, scallion, but they do not cook at the same speed. Onion is patient and wants several minutes. Garlic is delicate and burns in 60 seconds, and burnt garlic is bitter, and it will poison the flavor of the whole dish, and there is no rescue for it. So the order is onion first, ginger next, garlic last, and never on a screaming pan. Yuki puts her garlic in after everything else, at lower heat, and it never once burns. The honest scope here, if you do burn it, do not push on and hope. Wash the pan and start again. 2 minutes against a ruined dinner. Number 10. Read the recipe to the end before you begin, and put everything where you can reach it first. This sounds like housekeeping, and it is not. It is the difference between calm and panic. Cooking has moments that will not wait for you. The garlic that burns while you look for the soy sauce. The fish that overcooks while you search for a plate. Every one of those failures is not a failure of skill. It is a failure of preparation. Have everything cut, measured, and beside the stove before the pan gets hot. Then cooking becomes a calm sequence instead of a small emergency. Yuki lays out every bowl before she lights the flame, and she has never once been in a hurry in 50 years. Now the honest scope, the things nobody will tell you, and where these can go wrong. First, do not do all 10 this week. You will try, and you will feel clumsy, and you will decide you are bad at this and stop. Take 1. Plainly, take the hot pan. Do it for a week until you stop thinking about it. Then take the next. Habits, not heroics. Second, your equipment is not your problem, mostly, but one thing is real. A dull knife makes even cutting impossible, and it is more dangerous than a sharp one, because it slips instead of biting. If you sharpen nothing else, sharpen your one knife. It costs a few dollars, and it changes your hands. Third, some of this fails on the wrong pan. A thin, cheap pan cannot hold heat, so it collapses the moment food touches it, and you cannot brown, no matter how patient you are. This is honest. Not everything is your technique. Heavy pan, hot pan, dry food. And now the safety, plainly, and I will not soften it. A very hot pan with oil in it is the most dangerous thing in your home. Oil has a smoke point, and past it, it will eventually catch fire. So hear this and remember it. If oil in a pan ever catches fire, never, never throw water on it. Water hits the burning oil, turns instantly to steam, and throws flaming oil across your kitchen and into your face. Turn off the heat and smother it. A metal lid, a baking sheet, slid across the top to cut off the air. Keep a lid within reach whenever you cook hot. And the second one, raw meat and fish leave bacteria on the board and the knife in your hands, and salad does not get cooked. So keep raw meat and ready-to-eat food apart. Wash your board and your hands between them, and cook meat to a safe temperature, not by color, which lies, but by a thermometer, which does not. These are not old-fashioned worries. They are the 2 ways a kitchen actually hurts people. Now matainai. Total use, nothing wasted. And hear how these 10 things are matainai from beginning to end, because a person who cannot cook wastes constantly, without ever meaning to, the vegetables that go soft in the drawer, waiting for a confidence that never comes. The tough cut of meat that gets ruined and thrown away, so it is never bought again. The $30 a week for the delivery. The brown bits scrubbed off the pan and washed down the drain. A person who cooks well wastes almost nothing, because they can make anything good. That is the true meaning of these 10 things, plainly. They are not about food tasting better. They are about a cheap vegetable never being thrown away again, because you now know what to do with it. And these habits continue themselves, which is the gift of them. Learn the hot pan, and it teaches you the dry surface. Learn to taste, and it teaches you the salt and the acid. Learn to save the brown bits, and it teaches you to save the fat and the bones and the broth. Each one opens the door to the next, and after a year, you are not following 10 rules. You are simply a person who cooks. That is all Yuki is. She would tell you so herself. Now, the money. Let us count it plainly. A household that does not trust its own cooking orders food, plainly 3 times a week, at $30 a time. That is $90 a week, over $4,000 in a year. A household that cooks with confidence, orders once a month, for pleasure, not for rescue. Now count the second part, the one nobody counts. The cheap cuts. A person who can cook buys the $3 cut instead of the $15 one, because they know what to do with it. That is $10 a pound, twice a week, over $1,000 a year. And the third part, the food that no longer rots in the drawer, because it now gets used. Several $100s more. Plainly, these 10 small facts, free, learnable in a month, are worth $4,000–5,000 a year to a family. Not because you cook more, because you cook well, and confidence is the cheapest ingredient there is. Real money. Your money. So here is your task for this weekend. Just one thing, not 10. One. This weekend, before you put anything in a pan, heat the pan first, properly, until a drop of water flicked in dances instead of sits. Pat your food dry. Give the pieces room. Then listen. It should sizzle loudly the instant it touches the metal. If it is silent, the pan was not ready. That sound, plainly, is the sound of food becoming delicious. Learn that one sound this weekend. That is all. The other 9 can wait. See for yourself. And then, tell me in the comments, what is the one thing your mother or your grandmother told you in the kitchen that you have never forgotten? A rule, a warning, a way of knowing when something was ready without looking? Every family had one, and those small sentences are how cooking was carried for 1,000 years, mouth to ear. Here, right here, is where we remember them together. Write it down, share it. Let us gather the old wisdom, all of us, before it is lost for good. And next time, Yuki and I are going to take the very first of these, the hot pan, and show you what it does to a cheap, tough piece of meat and a handful of ordinary vegetables in one pan in 10 minutes, the old Okinawa way. If you wish to learn it, stay with us. Subscribe and walk this quiet old road beside us. Let me leave you, as always, with the whole thing in a single sentence. Get the pan hot. Get the food dry. Salt as you go. Taste at every step, and finish with acid. And you will cook better tonight than you did yesterday, with nothing new in your kitchen at all.